Hey Kate, here's your new camera. It is the Nikon D3100. The lens on it right now is the 50mm 1.8, and I also have a zoom lens for you. So let's get started. Let's go over everything and let's have fun. Okay Kate, so here is everything. We've got your charger, your battery, your SD card, the body of the camera, and our two lenses. So we're going to do the basics first. This is to put your memory card in. Open that. Make sure this is facing you and put it in. Close it. Pop it over here. Pull this. Open it up. Slide your battery in and close it. Super simple. Okay, so this is a lens cap or the body cap. You always want to keep this on. You don't want anything to get in here. Never ever touch the mirror in there. And that's how we always want to keep this on it or keep a lens on your camera. So like I just hit this button. This is your lens release. So you want to twist this clockwise to open it. You're going to take the lens cap off of your lens. Same way. Twist. Now, these have dots on them, white dots. So you're going to take this dot on the lens and you're going to align it with this white dot on the body right there. Okay? So you're going to line them up just like this. You'll feel it kind of drop in and you're going to twist it counterclockwise until it clicks. That's how you put your lens on. And to take it off, same thing. You hold the lens release button, push it in, twist it clockwise, and then it will come off. But again, keep this lens on here or keep the cap on it to keep it protected. All right. Okay, Kate, let's talk about your lenses. This one is a zoom lens. It starts at 18mm and it zooms all the way to 105mm. So super convenient, fun to walk around with because you have a lot of flexibility. But the one thing that limits this lens is the aperture, like we talked about. It starts at 3.6 at 18mm, but as you zoom, it starts to change and it goes from that 3.5 all the way to 5.6 when you get to the 105mm, which is fine, it works, but you'll be able to make more creative photos with this lens. This is called a prime lens. It's a 50mm 1.8. It's only 50mm. You have to walk to zoom. It's also called a walking lens, but it's 50mm and it's got a very low aperture of 1.8. Now, the low aperture is what gives you the nice backgrounds. It's how you can get creative with some of your photos. So I want you to stick with this one. If you're wanting to walk around and see what you can do with this, perfectly fine. But this is where you're going to learn. This is where you're going to see the changes happen. And this is how you're going to really start to get excited about some of the pictures you start to take. Okay, Kate, let's talk about buttons because we have a lot of buttons and switches. So first, we're right here. This is an autofocus switch. It is autofocus on and then manual autofocus. So you can toggle this between manual and autofocus. Both of these lenses have that. Make sure it's on autofocus, the A side. You're really probably not going to use manual for a while, but that's something that we could talk about later. Make sure the camera's on. This button pops up your flash. This is a function button. I have that set to ISO, so anytime you hit function, it pops right over to your ISO. So again, we'll learn more about what that's for. And since we're at the main menu, okay, so the A stands for aperture priority because we're in aperture priority right now. As you turn the dial, it switches your modes and you'll see it change on your screen as well. So just getting back to aperture priority, there we go. This is a display of what your aperture physically looks like inside the camera. This next one here is your shutter speed, and here's your actual aperture. And as I change your aperture, you'll see it change everything along the side. See, and this is again, this is actually what's going on in your camera, and you can see everything moving as we go. Okay. This is an indicator of your autofocus points. There are 11 autofocus points. This over here is how many pictures. And when I do that, the screen goes black. It times out. You just half press the shutter right here. So just click the shutter and you'll toggle the screen back on. The 468 is how many pictures we have left. And then if we hit the info button right here twice, it's kind of a shortcut to some menu items. So quickly, this is your quality. We're on fine. We have a large picture. Don't worry about white balance, but it's set to auto. And this is the ISO. Don't worry about it for right now, but I also have that set to auto. And then here are your different focusing points and your different options, which we will definitely be talking about a bunch. So these are the two shortcuts that you actually probably use, is to change up your focus mode between single and continuous, and your focus area, which again, it could be wide and have all of the focus points available, or you still have all the focus points available with single, but you pick which focus point you want, which I really like. Again, don't worry about any of this stuff down here. We're not worried about that. So your play button plays your last picture. Your trash button will delete it. It'll give you, it'll ask for confirmation, so you can delete it. Hit yes. And then, like I said, we use this to switch between, this is your command dial, that's what it's called technically. That's how you move between shutter speeds and apertures. The actual dial for all your different commands. Your on-off switch, off, on. We'll talk about these later. And quickly, this is how many pictures you want to take. It's kind of like your picture mode. Single shot, continuous, timer, and then quiet. Pretty much stay on single unless you plan on, or if you're like wanting to take multiple pictures, like if you're doing sports or goofing off with Dominic playing baseball or something like that, then you can just move it to continuous and it'll take 2 or 3 pictures in a row. I think the frame rate is 3 to 4 frames per second on this camera. And that's it. Memory card slot, bottom. If you get a tripod, that's what that's for. Battery slot. And don't worry about any of these. Those are just all your connectors, but again, don't worry about any of that for now. All right, let's move on. Okay, so just to mention, this does have a video mode. This is what this button does. You flip it, it adjusts to video, and that's what it does. Center button starts recording. It's not good autofocus. It's not a good video camera. So that's why I'm not really going to talk about it. And you wanted to get into photography. So we're going to stick with just the photo aspect of everything about this camera and photography related. Hey, okay, so I may feel like this is silly to mention, but everybody's so used to tablets and phones. I just want to remind you that in order to take a picture, you have to put your eye up to the viewfinder and find what you want to take a picture of, focus, and take your picture. You can't touch screen this, and you can't see what you're doing unless your eyeball is right up to the screen. So don't forget, you got to put your eye up to the viewfinder. Again, I'll get you some pictures of what the viewfinder has in it, since I can't do that on a video. But it's focus points, it has your shutter speed, your aperture, and it has your remaining photos. I'm going to see if I can flip that to ISO for you so you have your 3 basics right at the bottom. But there we go. Okay, a few more buttons to talk about that I didn't go into in depth when I just revisited. Okay, so once you've taken a picture to review it, you hit play and you can scroll through your pictures and see what you've taken using the left and the right. Let's get to something a little bit more interesting, because this is just all the ones I took as I was going through the other videos. But anyways, so there's different views. You can't really see anything big here. So if you want to change the display, you hit the up button. That'll give you a full screen view. If you want to zoom in, here are your zoom buttons. You have a plus and a minus. Zoom in, zoom out. You can keep zooming out and you can have a different type of view so you can see a bunch of pictures at once. And just hit OK and it zooms in. And when you want to review like the details of your image, when you learn a little bit more, you hit the up button. This is where you can get all the good information. Your shutter speed, your aperture, your ISO. This is a histogram. It's helpful, but it's not something we're going to do for a while. And here's the focal length. So this is a 50 millimeter 1.8. It's always going to be at 50. But when you have your zoom, say you wanted to say, oh, what was that focal length at? If it was at 105 or 26 or 85, it would be right there. And then this is just a little bit more information about your picture as well. But I figured I kind of forgot to show you how to zoom in and zoom out on those. So we're going to hit play, info, or play up to get the info away. Your zoom in, zoom out. And say you want to delete a picture like that one. Delete. Okay. And it deletes it. And then anytime you're stuck in a screen or a menu, when you half press the shutter button, you get right back to the mode that you can take a picture in. So that's just like FYI. Okay, so let's talk about focus modes and your shutter and how to focus. So here is your shutter, obviously. And to actually focus, you're going to push it halfway and you're going to wait for a beep. So you hear the beep, you're in focus, and then you could take the picture. So you always want to halfway press, half shutter press, wait for the beep, and then take your picture. You never want to just come in hot and just hit the button, because then you have no clue where the focus was and you just won't get good pictures that way. So different options for the focus area. We're going to hit the info button. I like single because you can control it and pick. So here is the area. This little square is an example of what's in the viewfinder. These dots, you have 11 focus points. The ones that illuminate red are the ones that the camera is choosing to focus. When you're in this mode, the camera gets to pick which of these 11 points it thinks that it wants to focus on, or it thinks that you want it to focus on. So it gets it right, don't get me wrong, it's decent, but I like to be more specific. So I'll come in here, and instead of doing area mode for auto area, I like to come to single point. And I get to watch this as it moves. You get to, oops, I gotta get back here. See here, as you're looking through your viewfinder at what your subject is or what you're taking a picture of, you can pick which focus point that you want. What I generally do is I stay in the middle and I do what's called, I think I mentioned it before, focus and recompose. So it's always going to focus in the center. You're going to hear that beep. It's focused in the center. So if you want to scooch around and pretend like you were on one of those other focus points, you can do that. You don't have to let the camera choose. So half press, camera focuses, you can scooch and move around to recompose and to get a different view in that viewfinder, and it's still going to be locked onto that one focus point that you chose. So that is the focus point options that we have. So we'll get more into that if you have any questions or if you want to just experiment. All right, Kate, so I'm done talking about menus and I'm done talking about buttons. I just need to get this in the mail for you so you can just start taking a bunch of pictures. So put it in automatic mode. I don't care. And put it in Aperture priority mode. Try to have some fun with it. But I will send you a lot of information, a lot of videos on the exposure triangle and how Aperture, shutter speed, and ISO work. And you're going to have a lot of fun with this little lens. So you're going to be able to take a lot of fun, creative pictures. So I can't wait. So hopefully you have fun with it. And until the next video, I'll talk soon.